Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. It's that time again, the 7th of the month. We're going to take our monthly magic market walk. There's two things that I'm really looking for this month. It's have we seen any relief on play booster box prices? Because collector boxes can stay high in price. They're literally called collector boxes. You shouldn't be chasing them if you're on any type of budget. But the play booster boxes have got to get back down to reasonable prices where players don't feel so gouged for them. The second thing I'm looking at this month is how are the collector box prices doing? Because we here at Final Trade are interested in those as the blue chip product of Magic investing. And we want to see, is the market continuing to groan along or is it swinging back into another upwards leg? Yes, we got our Federal Reserve rate cut a couple of weeks ago. We expected that to pour gasoline on the fire of this already hot market. So we're going to take a look at that. Real quick, though, I want to go through a couple of draft boxes and some set boxes. Just take a little swing by those and see how a few of those are doing. So we have this old Kamigawa box, the first release of 2022. And here we are, the draft box, all the way up to $156, but still 111 out in the market. So a lot left to go before we expect to see a lot of hard movement upwards. Zendikar Rising was, I believe, the standard set. Let's see, the last standard set of 2020. Was that it? Or was Core 21 after that? It's so hard to remember all the way back. $133 for the draft box, and it's amazing. Look at this. In the last 3 months, it's actually got some life and started moving upwards. 37 boxes in the market. We might expect this to continue making moves into the end of the year. It has taken so long for anything to happen with this box. It has just been years and years, and you can see all the way back February of 2025, this was still below $100. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, the snoozer set of 2021, $156 for the draft box, 64 left in the market. And again, when we go back here, nearly an entire year, it was below $100, just less than a year ago. And so already up to 156. Finally, the supply is tightening up enough to have some kind of effect on the market for these. Double Masters 2022, very good to see these closing in on $350. At some point, I would expect reprints to eat into the price appreciation of this and for its rate of appreciation to slow down. We can see here on the 3 month plot, it's only moved from 3 months ago, a market price of 336 to today, 344 on the market price. Zendikar Rising set booster boxes. Of course, I've said some things in the past about what kind of celebration we would have when this hits $200, and look at it already here, nearly 130 bucks. And just 3 months ago was 118. I know a scant $12 increase, only about a 10% rise in the last 3 months. But man, on this sad product, that feels like a lot. 123 left in the market currently. Kaldheim, $170. We can see it's been decently flat here for a couple of months, but it took a good leg upwards earlier in the year. And yeah, we can see a year ago, 116 bucks. So another one of these 20, let's see, this was the first release of 2021. So another one of these old products printed to oblivion during the post-COVID era and taken a long time to get some real movement. Strixhaven with the Mystical Archives, $168 per box. Another one that's took a leg up earlier in the year and has now moved sideways for the last little while, probably coaxing a lot of boxes out of the closet as it's finally taken a movement upwards after so many years. $260 for Modern Horizons 2. It's interesting because we've kind of gotten back to that point where the price difference between the set boxes and the draft boxes of these makes sense. Again, remember, set boxes were always intentionally engineered to be more rich in rares and mythics than draft boxes, but Modern Horizons 2 was even more rich on the set boxes to the tune of about 25% more rares and mythics. And those are the slots where most of the value comes from. And so now that we see that the draft boxes of these are still around 205, 210, and the set boxes have moved up to 260, it kind of makes sense again. The spread between them is more realistic than it has been in previous months. 72 boxes left in the market. What about in the last month? Only 37 sold. So, yeah, maybe we'll see some movement on that before the end of the year, but certainly in 2026, I would expect to see this go over 300 and maybe make some pretty dramatic movements at that point. Forgotten Realms set booster boxes 215. This is one of the most wild ones after everything we saw in 2021 and 22. You know, there were times when these boxes were being sold for $80 delivered to your house. Just unbelievable after all these years to finally see these boxes take off and do something interesting. What were they? A year ago, the market price was 116. So nearly doubled in the last year. I have to wonder what the pressure will be on these boxes. You know, we're eventually going to get to the collector box of this. I know I opened a tab for that, but the collector boxes, I believe, are only about $270. And that seems like a not nearly large enough spread. Like either these need to come down or the collector boxes need to jump up a bit to increase the spread between the set and the collector boxes. I just wonder where the pressure will be on these boxes long term because they're just, yeah, they have more rares and mythics than the draft boxes, but still there's not a lot of great stuff in this set. Where is the pressure coming from to push these boxes upwards? 40 left in the market and 30 sold in the last month, but why are these being purchased? That's my question. Obviously, they're getting bought. Obviously, the demand is outstripping the supply, as you always expect on scarce collectibles that people destroy for fun. But why? Why are the people buying these? Midnight Hunt just continuing to go through these 2021 era boxes. Midnight Hunt set boxes, 140 bucks. Oh, and the data is garbled up on TCG Player. There we go. When we go out to the 6-month plot, we see, and on the 12-month, yes, $88 market price 12 months ago, and 140 for the lowest ask today. Crimson Vow, $191 for the lowest ask. These have always outpaced the others and especially outpaced the same expansions draft boxes. In fact, I saw the draft boxes on the search results as I was opening tabs to do this video, and they're still in somewhere in the $90 range today for the draft boxes. The set box is 190. And this is one where it really feels like it's the rarity of the box. It's not anything specifically within it that's driving it. $112 a year ago. And I believe this is the last set booster box I'd opened. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Of course, this got a huge reprint right on the eve of it rotating out of standard. Absolutely crushed the prices down from about the $150 range back down to the low 100s. And it's finally really climbed back up out of that, up to the 185 price point today. Man, very nice, steady growth, a very steady looking curve there in the last 3 months. Man, last year, not so much. Sideways for most of the last year, and then a big jump up, I guess, as the volume finally dried up, the number of boxes still in existence. 65 in the market today, and 61 sold in the last month. Wow, very nice. Oh, Streets of New Capenna. Okay, so we opened a couple of these 2022 era boxes, and this at 140. Man, a total whiff of a set. The gilded foils just did not do it. There were a few cards that people liked. What was it? The Unlicensed Hearse and a couple of others that were splashy in their own time, but not a lot to give this staying power in the long term. Here we are, play booster boxes, and we can start examining the question of, are we getting relief finally on the play booster box front? Because especially for standard, we really need that. Standard is the game as a service product that WotC needs to be able to continuously sell to people. it needs the prices to be reasonable so people feel okay about the rotations, feel okay about doing booster drafts and other limited events. Are we finally seeing any relief? And well, on that 3 month clock, the answer is no for Bloomborough. Bloomborough's been a popular set since it first released a year ago, but to see the price up there, okay, well, at least it's not as high as it was in January. So it's just a couple dollars below it. Very disheartening to see that even though it is now 9 months older, price really hasn't come down at all. There are not enough of these boxes coming into the ecosystem to pull the prices down to reasonable place where they should be. For one of these standard play booster boxes with 36 packs in it, we'd love to see a price somewhere between around 125 to 135 on TCG Player. Same thing for Duskborn 127. That actually feels okay. What are we looking at on the 1 year plot? So it has come down over time, spiked up a little more recently to 130, but 123 today. So the vertical scale on this plot is not that big, a $30 span. This one feels okay. It's in a good range, and this looks okay. Again, these were back with the 36 booster pack boxes. So 127 for this is actually very nice. It's as if the printing has caught up to the demand on this, and the price of it is down at a point where it is palatable to players, provides a good value, and supports the format. Foundations 144, we would call this a little high by 10, maybe $15. And this does not bode well that that's the last 3 months, 6 months. Okay, well, it's not as bad as it has been previously, all the way up here at 150 on the market price, and it's 141 on the market price today, 144 on the lowest ask. So this could definitely use some more help in terms of boxes coming to market, in terms of reprints, in order to get this price down a bit more. You really got to hope that WotC can get this situation under control, that they can push more boxes through the normal distribution channel instead of trying to sell them directly through Amazon and get the higher profit margins. They need to get these prices down because when you chase players away from standard, that's the core of your customer base, is all of those players down there, all of those players spending that money. Yes, there may be more dedicated commander players, but they don't spend as much money. Aetherdrift, we have to do this just because it was the next standard release. No, we did not expect this one to be horribly overpriced. In fact, when I saw the price, I was surprised on the downside. I was surprised, man. Here we've got somebody blowing out 35 boxes at 74 bucks with a $10 shipping charge. And of course, if you don't know, if you don't shop on TCG Player, the way it allocates the shipping charge is you pay that $10 charge one time, whether you order one box from this seller or you order all 35. You only pay that $10 charge one time. So you could get these 35 boxes at 74 bucks each and a single $10 shipping charge. So that tells you how cheap these boxes are. This is what it felt like during 2021 and 2022 and a lot of 2023, when boxes were this far below wholesale. Now, Aether Drift is when they switch to 30 booster pack boxes. So we do expect these boxes to sell a little cheaper. We would like, let's say, 100 to 110, maybe 115 kind of range on TCG Player would be very healthy, both for buyers and sellers. And so to see this down at $74 means, man, there is way too much of this product out there. And look at this cliff it dove off of in the last couple of weeks, from $97 market price down to 84 today. How many boxes are backed up? Golly, at these kind of prices. Okay, so only this one seller really dumping them hard at this price. He should probably raise his price a bit. He doesn't need to be that low and losing that much money, because once you take a 12% market fee out of this $74, and then he actually pays the shipping to ship them to the buyers, man, he is going to be hurting to dump these boxes. Dark Hero Dragon Storm 133. So again, for a 30 booster pack standard expansion play box, this is too expensive. This needs more printing in order to get the price down. And it's the highest it's been during its release lifetime. So, not very good. WotC falling behind and not catching up on these more recent products. And speaking of that, Final Fantasy, yes, $244. Occasionally, I will see on Amazon where WotC is offering boxes to people with Amazon business accounts at about $210, but they limit it to two boxes. It's like, gee, thanks a lot, WotC. You could sell it through the normal distribution system, get it out to card stores who would pass it on to the players and get it to them at a lower price and get that market price down. But instead, we have to play these games where the stores can only get a limited number of boxes, and WotC keeps the price high by pushing most of the inventory through Amazon. And here we are, $244, even a couple of months after release. And you can see no relief. Prices just keep going up on this product. Very discouraging, and this is the kind of thing that will push the standard players away. It'll push them to, if WotC's lucky, into other formats, but if WotC is not lucky, to other hobbies where they feel like they get a better value for their money. Edge of Eternity's $150 for a Universes Within standard expansion, 30 booster pack play box. This is too expensive. WotC needs to get more boxes out into the market, get this price down. Where are we on the 6-month plot? So this captures most of the pre-release period, and you can see even since release, even under the pressure of the TCG expansion lifecycle, this product's price has gone up because there just are not enough boxes out there. And most recently, Spider-Man, the one to break the mold because enough people do not care for the set because it is actually probably weak enough that the price has come down. Here we are, $144. And for one of these premium priced Universes Beyond standard expansion, 30 booster pack, play booster boxes, yeah, this is a good price. Man, this is a really nice price. Except a lot of people will say, well, there's too many variants of the Spider Man himself, too many different Spider Man characters, and everything else, all the other problems that people will list with this set. And so that's why we see the price down here. And let's see, how many boxes out in the market today? 790. So don't expect any movement upwards on this, maybe for the next year, maybe longer than that. It's going to be a while. The reception of this product was poor, and these are the results. So that brings us into the collector booster boxes. And of course, the problem that we want to tackle in these today is the market still appearing to begin groaning to a halt? So, in general, are the prices going up, down, or sideways on collector booster boxes? And of course, Spider-Man specifically being the most recent release, we are seeing the boxes come down. We're seeing them come down a lot more. And man, these are getting to be some very nice prices. And I gotta say, anybody who is selling their boxes to Rudy, taking a 20% haircut off of the current market price and selling at a loss, you're crazy. You're crazy if you are dumping these boxes right now, because a year from now, these are going to be high three digits, potentially low four-digit boxes. And to think of all the times in 2021, 22, especially 23, and some in 2024, that we here at Final Trade saw people choose to miss out. And this is another one of those examples. People dumping these boxes right now, and especially the ones taking huge haircuts to do it. Those are people choosing to miss out on the future gains. And yes, it's going down right now. At some point, it will reverse. At some point, it will trend sideways for a while and then reverse. And then it will begin going up because, repeat it with me, everyone, these are scarce collectibles that people destroy for fun. So earlier today, as I was watching this, there was a seller with, well, at first he had 36 boxes down at 495. He was somewhere in here, and it looks like he has gotten cleaned out over the course of the day. Let's go see what we can find. Wow, some actually sold at 460, 450. So some sellers coming in here and pushing some boxes at even lower prices just to move them very, very quickly. If you're a card store that's struggling with capitalization, then yes, You may have to do this if you're on 30, 60, or 90-day terms with your suppliers. Yes, you have to get out from under the product to pay it off so you can keep your account so you can move on to the next thing. But if you're well capitalized or if you're an investor here, you can afford to hold the product. You can afford to wait until it goes back up and then capture those sweet, sweet gains. Moving on, Ravnica Remastered closing in on $600, and this is done, yeah, a couple turns up and down over the last 6 months. So 20 left in the market. That is music to my ears after how many of these I bought while Watsy was dumping them on Amazon a year and a half ago. Golly. I believe the dump price was $240. So, man, feels good. And $700 for Bloomborough. So, generally trending sideways for the last month. We'll call that sideways. Now, this is interesting. Okay. So it's worse than that. So a month ago the market price was 850. Today's the market price has come down to 815, but the lowest ask is all the way at 700. So we will call that falling price, and yeah, there are a few boxes. There are 4 boxes available down there at 700. So, we will call that one the market beginning to groan to a halt. And again, when we talk about stuff like the market trending upwards or downwards or sideways or groaning to a halt or going into a bear market or any of those types of things, most of that stuff, you have to look at past data. We have to come over here and we have to look at what the prices were over the last month and see that, well, it's trended sideways and gone down over the last month. That's a bearish sign. So let's go on. This is one where we really did expect it to come down. These saw a huge spike a few months ago before Edge of Eternity's release, because of course Edge of Eternity's brought some of the Shocklands back into standard legality, and Unfinity contained the Shocklands also, as did Ravnica Remastered. So we saw a huge spike in these boxes because for a little while there was inverted EV just to open these boxes, farm out Shocklands, sell them off. And so a lot of people did, and it spiked the price, but we see it's adjusted back down off of that high, but assumed a new higher level price as a lot of boxes got opened and destroyed forever. 99 left in the market. That's actually quite a lot for this product for the age of it. So I would not expect a lot of big movements upwards anytime soon in this. And in fact, we see how many boxes we've got out here before we get back to $300. What is the current rate? 20 per month. So yeah, we're probably looking at least another month, bare minimum, before we see $300 again on this product. Modern Horizons 3, wow, $539 once you add that shipping cost in here. But we see over the last 3 months, it's taken really a round trip, and it's not significantly leading or lagging its current market price, just a few dollars off from it, and has been about the same market price for the last 2 months at least. So this is another one where we would say it's the market groaning sideways. It has gone up so much. The entire collector box market has gone up so much in 2025 already that it feels like this is the time when the market is saying, hey, I'm exhausted, I'm out of cash, we got to go sideways, maybe even down for a little while. Dominaria United, so 245. This one has had a good upwards year, and 1 year ago, $171 as the market price, and today, 238 market price. So $60, about a 33% gain over the last year. But again, lots of boxes backed up at these prices. And so I would not expect to see a ton of movement coming anytime soon. 132 in the market and a mere 43 sold in the last month. Tark here, $345 for the collector box. Now, if we look at this spike, if we look all the way back 3 months ago, 322. Yeah, so not a lot of action. Only moved up about $30. So maybe 8%, 9% in the last 3 months. That is very, very much sideways compared to most of the rest of 2025. So again, another small indicator that potentially we are getting into a sideways market with a lot of these collector boxes. Zendikar rising, Now, it's had a very good time this year, but in the last couple of months, it has not been able to sustain that upwards motion. 275 for the market price today. But if we look back merely 6 months ago, $220 for the market price. So very nice, come up 20% in the last 6 months. But again, it's been pretty much sideways now for the last couple of months, unable to sustain that momentum. And I suspect this will be another one. Kaldheim collector boxes, $250 and not moved up much, only moved up about $5 on the market price in the last 6 weeks. So another one just groaning, really, really struggling to keep sustaining the gains of earlier in 2025. Final Fantasy 1265, and this one has come down a lot off of these sugar highs up here of 1450. So it shed $200. What's it look like on the longer chart? Ugh, the data are messed up again coming from TCG Player. If we go to a 1 year plot, no. Yeah, just all kinds of messed up data. We'd have to come back at another time and look at it again. So this one has pulled back because it definitely overshot what the market could handle. You know, nearly $1,500 for these boxes so soon after release when so many of the boxes were still in existence. Not enough of them had been destroyed yet. These are the kind of times where it looks like if you have conviction on this product, it wouldn't be a bad idea to start slowly laying in a position. Midnight Hunt. Man, why are we looking at this one? $190, but again, you see the same thing. It came up earlier in the year and then it's plateaued over the last 6 or 8 weeks. Just another one of those data points. Phyrexia, not quite the same type of plateau. Yeah, this has had a couple of bumps this last year, but a very, very good year for this. Under $300 a year ago and barely over $600 today. So another 100% gain in the last year. But again, this is one where I could see the further gains being pretty slow because the sell through rate only 8 in the last month. So very, very slow sell through rate in the last month. You know, when a out of rotation standard collector box like this gets to these kind of prices, you just expect it to slow down. You expect fewer and fewer buyers willing to pay the money for it. Innistrad Remastered, I think this one has room to run, and it had taken a leg up earlier. There it is. What did it jump from? About 250 market to nearly 300 market. So it took about a near vertical 20% jump about 3 months ago, and then it's trended slightly downwards since then, downwards about $15 since then. So pulled back a tiny bit. And this is one where if I had not already laid back a large position of this when Watsy was dumping them on Amazon, then I would definitely be looking to buy them now because this kind of sideways movement on a product that is approaching a year old is very, very nice. It's a good opportunity as the population continues to get destroyed and dries up. So I think we're going to see a lot of nice movements on this into the end of the year and definitely in 2026. Foundations, $515. Had a very, very nice year. You can see the sales rate absolutely dropped off. These volume numbers just got very, very low, down to the point of one or two a day for most of this past 12 months. But I guess it's gained pretty well in the last few months. What's our scale here? 560. Okay, so we're 560 on the market. Is this just somebody new dumping today? Yeah, so actually, it's exactly that. A new seller with one sale so far, pricing very low to get the sales. So we would call the actual price here today $565. Okay, so let's think about it in terms of that. 565. So yeah, this is definitely one that is still running strong pretty consistently over the last 3 months. It is not plateauing. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, this is another one where my recollection is that it had a pretty strong leg upwards and, yes, has trended sideways. So, yet another where it's kind of groaning, kind of struggling. to get another leg up. Of course, this product is about 18 months old now. Enough boxes have been destroyed that any of your old memories about this being an unloved set or a bad set or a hat set no longer matter. Boxes are drying up. 91 left in the market. What have we sold in the last month? 35. So look for this probably sometime in the first half of 2026 to really start making some hard moves. Modern Horizons to golly. Well, it's been on a nice uptrend there, leveling off, getting towards leveling off. The slope of this curve getting more shallow over the last 6 weeks, but still going up a little bit, very modestly. If nothing else, this is just an old enough product. 83 boxes in the market and 27 sold in the last month. It's amazing that a product this old can still drive nearly one box a day just on TCG Player. Dominaria Remastered, definitely sideways, a little bit down over the last month and a half, we'll call that. But another one that took a big leg upwards. So we see so many of these collector box products took big legs upwards in the earlier parts of 2025 and then have mostly trended sideways, either very barely up or very barely down. There are only a few of these that have really made strong moves in the last 2 months. $316. I would still call this too cheap today. There are too many great cards in this box. And man, I can't wait. Looking forward to the future of what this box is going to do. 54 left in the market today and 44 sold in the last month. The future for this product is so bright. Double Masters 2022 still absolutely struggling towards that $300 mark. Still hasn't made it there. So long and still hasn't made it. So, mostly sideways again for the last 6 weeks, like most of these products. And golly, what a brutal year. What an absolutely brutal year, making this huge run towards 300 just for everybody to celebrate by bringing the boxes out of their closet and crashing the market back down. Edge of Eternities. Now, this took its post-release dump from 433. What did it get down here at the nadir? 350, and now it's back up to nearly 380 on the market price. I would call this absolutely safe to be purchasing. I would not expect this to take any more meaningful bumps downwards. It may go up or down $1 or $5 or $10 on a 1 week or 1 month timeline, but in the long term, this is going to be upwards and at worst flat and only gently upwards. But it has served its time. It is taken its dip downwards and it is consolidating. Boxes continue to get destroyed. 194 left in the market and 380 sold in the last month. Remember, that kind of market depth analysis, especially on very recent products, will be very squishy. A lot more of these boxes will come to the market, but this one is now old enough that we're sometime soon, maybe sometime recently, hitting that tipping point where the demand will definitely start to outstrip the supply permanently. Duskmorn, House of Horrors, 434. Now, this feels like it's come down. Okay, there's plenty of boxes at that price. Okay, well, then my memory is faulty on this. We're seeing 458 on the market price and 434. Okay, so it definitely has come down a little bit. The market price had gotten all the way up to 458, and now we're seeing the lowest ask at 434. My recollection is intact, and plenty of other sellers are piling in behind at that price to hold it back in the 430s for a little while. What's our sell through rate? Oof, very bad. Man, I guess the box just is not engineered well enough. It is too old and 21 sold in the last month. That is a very poor showing for something that is barely a year old. 95 left in the market, so definitely don't expect any big movements on this anytime soon. Fallout 1350. Now we have 1430 as the market price. So yes, this is moving backwards and we can see on the plot we show generally sideways. So this is definitely one that is struggling to maintain the kind of percentage gains it was seeing earlier in the year. Let's go back 1 year and we can all cry together. $580. Oh boy. So yeah, yeah. Up what? 1.5 times, 2.5 times in the last year. Golly, 150% gain is what I'm trying to say. Brothers War, this is one of my patrons brought this to my attention about a month ago, and the very thin market depth at that time, out to about $800. And we see there have been some more boxes filling in here and coming into the market. People definitely wanting to cash in and lock in their gains on these standard expansion boxes that they've been holding. For a long time, I sold these to patrons on the monthly sales list in the low 200s. I don't remember the exact price, but man, very, very nice to see the movement on these. 23 sold in the last month. I'm surprised it slowed down that much. 47 in the market. So it could take a while before we see another big movement on these. And we see they have mostly been sideways here for quite a while now. Interesting, though, that the lowest ask is outpacing the market price, meaning that the sales rate is very low compared to the price change. Wild's Drain. So this had gone all the way up to 1,000. I had thought, let's see, zero sold. Yeah, here we had a sale at $1,200. What about this? Then the next sale was at 900. So yeah, definitely thinning out in terms of demand. Well, TCG Player only shows 5 sold in the last month. Can we believe that? No. So we're at what, the 6? Oh, no, that is correct. So they do actually have the data correct here. So 5 sold in the last month. So a lot of sellers coming in here and just undercutting, trying to get a sell. Just probably running their repricing scripts and undercutting a couple of dollars or a couple of percent each time. And over the course of a month, with such a slow sell through rate, they pull the price down from this $1,200 sale point merely 2.5 weeks ago. Gee golly, man, you'd feel bad about that. This will do fine in the long term. It's just going to take a little while. You get $1,000 standard expansion box, and man, that's really asking a lot from the market. Yamagawa, $379. 90 left in the market. What if we sold 20 in the last month? And yeah, some boxes piled up here. So another one where you don't really expect to see a lot of upwards movement. And the last 3 months have shown that same movement upwards and then plateauing sideways. Again, the market seeming to groan to sustain the kind of gains that it had earlier in 2025. This is another one I expect the same thing. Yep, there we are. 37 in the market. 5 sold in the last month. Sometimes these plots are off. No, that one's correct too. Okay, only 5 sold in the last month. This one I understand. This one I would consider a somewhat undesirable product if you're looking to open boxes. Definitely an undesirable product, but golly, only 5 sold in the last month, so it's going to struggle to make any meaningful movements upwards, just as it has for the last several years. $410 for March of the Machine collector boxes. We see the data are probably broken there. Yep. Okay. But again, another product that took a big leg upwards and then needs to consolidate for a while before it can make the next movement. The market price is pretty well matching that most recent lowest ask price, showing that the price is not moving very quickly. And man, we've got a lot of boxes piled up here before we hit $500. Duskmorn, House of Horrors. I already did this one. Ikoria, 396. 410 if you add in that shipping. And I wanted to look at the 1 year. Yep. So steady rise, a large leg upwards, and then sideways more recently, just like so many more of these. Throne of Eldraine, do we see the same thing? Virtually the same exact plot. So after that big leg upwards over the summer, we just see more and more of these boxes struggling to keep those kind of gains. A lot of them struggling to maintain any gains at all. Strixhaven over the last year, not quite the same, okay, but still sideways in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. Here we are. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms 272, like I mentioned earlier in the video, as the set box was, I believe, around 225. This one has pulled back just a little bit. The market price pulled back all the way from the 290s down to the 250s, but the lowest asks today all the way back up to the 270s. Pretty good volume here before we hit 300. What's our sell through rate look like? 68 in the last month. Wow. Somebody tell me what people are buying these for. It cannot just be speculation. Is there suddenly something in these boxes that is highly desirable that I just can't think of? For so many years, it was old Gnawbone or bust. Down to our last two, Lord of the Rings, as always, 1295, 1298 once you add that shipping in. So very nice. And again, another product that saw this big leg upwards recently. We'll see what direction this takes. You get very, very poor price discovery on a product like this because the sell-through rate is so low. Only 16 sold in the last month. A very expensive product. But man, what's it done in the last year? $674 up to $1280. So it's doubled in the last year. Another 100% gain over the last 12 months. And finally, yes, Lord of the Rings special edition, $2,700. Congratulations to my patrons who were so helpful and willing to support the card store endeavor by buying a couple of boxes of this from me last month. I believe they were merely $2,000 last month. This month, 2,700, and well, going sideways here. So that's very, very interesting. 9 sold in the last month, 36 in the market. And 1 year ago, $947. So up 150% in the last 12 months. I am so glad I bought a lot of these. Again, as Watsy was dumping them on Amazon, sadly, I had to pay something like $300 each for these in the Amazon dumps, but I bought quite a few and very happy for it. They're doing a very good job now, giving me a lot of free cash to get into the card store in the coming months. So I think the data speak for themselves. The market is weakening. I would not call it weak. I would not say we're at the end of the bull market. I would not say that things are rolling into a bear market. We won't know any of those things until afterwards, until we have seen the results and we can look in the rearview mirror backwards at the data and conclusively say those things. So for now, it does appear that the weakness is continuing. That's about the most firm statement I would make. Now, do I expect we will roll over into a full-fledged bear market and we will see considerable drops in the prices of these products? A few of the products, yes. I think the coming Avatar collector boxes, definitely the Warwind collector boxes, I would expect to see those prices drop a lot. We have a long time before those releases. And again, they are standard expansion. Lorwyn is universes within, and so I would definitely expect to see that drop quite a bit before release day, especially if the whole general market continues to weaken. For some of these older products like Edge of Eternities, going backwards even further into things like Innistrad Remastered and beyond that, I do not see a scenario where even in a full-blown economic recession, we see much price depreciation on any of those. Sorry, let me get a drink here. Okay, so outside of a full-blown market meltdown, I don't think we're going to see any of those products suffer much price erosion at all. You can imagine something like a Phyrexia collector box from January 2023. Okay, let's say we roll into January of 2026, we hit a recession, unemployment rate skyrockets, inflation's out of control, everything's terrible. It's cats and dogs and all the stuff, sky is falling, I really don't think those Phyrexia boxes are going to suffer considerably. Maybe 10, 15, 20% losses. Beyond that, nah, I wouldn't see much more than that. These are scarce collectibles people destroy for fun, and the remaining supplies of older boxes like that are just so low at this point that even if the demand for a brief time falls off a cliff, the supply is so low. So that's how I feel about the market. It's good to always take a walk through it at least once a month, look at everything, share my thoughts, get some feedback from you guys. Of course, as I've been doing for the last couple of months, I will break out a separate video for the Pokemon market walk because there are just too many products nowadays that I want to look at and keep track of to put them in one video. So let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.